what's your emergency? 911, what's your emergency?
Be advised, Car 4 has control of the pursuit. Proceed with caution.
Hey, everybody. How are you guys all doing? It's good to see you all tonight. Hey, Lynn, how are you? Welcome. Hey, Mitzi. Good to have you. Hey, Tech Death. How are you, my friend? Hi, Jill. Good to see you. Hey, Deb. Welcome, welcome. Hey, Polygraph. Good to see you. Hey, Steffa. How are you? Good to see you. Hi, Dave. How are you? Good to have you here. Hey, Jerry. Thank you for being here. So good to see you. Hey, Laura Ann. Thank you so much. So glad to have you. Thank you so much for your super sticker or your super chat. Sorry. Oh, I'm glad you're okay. So tonight, guys, we are going to be talking about the the Malibu State Park murder of Tristan Beaudette. And I covered this case almost exactly to the day a year ago. And this case, for those who are not aware, hey, Jerry, welcome, is the cousin of our very good friend, Fig Solves. And when Fig and I met and got to know each other, he told me about this case. And I started looking into it, and I asked him if I could cover it. And he told me that I could, that he felt comfortable with me covering this case because he trusted me. He trusted me to cover it with dignity for his cousin, and to keep it factual and to not disrespect the family. Hey, Frank Meister. How are you, my dear? Those cubs are hot, my dear. Those cubs are hot. It's so good to see you. And I'm glad you're here. And so I felt honored that Fig felt that I could handle his cousin Tristan's case. And this case is utterly heartbreaking. And I felt the need to recover his case because the trial of the person suspected of this crime starts next Wednesday on May the 3rd. So I felt that it was important because I am going to be covering the trial. I'm going to be watching it. Fig is going to be there, as you would expect. And it's just something that I really feel close to my heart. Fig is a good person. He has been a wonderful person to have in the Delphi community and in true crime in general, because he does know what it's like to be on the victim side of things. And he has such a great way of using critical thinking when he's looking at these cases. And I'm just really glad that I got to know him as a dear friend and as a human being, because he's just amazing. So this case, as I said, is going to be difficult to listen to. There are a couple of podcasts that did this case. One of them I'm going to be referencing is The Lost Hills. And it's just a really, really hard story to tell. And hey, Maria, good to see you, my dear. Much love. And so I just want to let everybody know that ahead of time. And there's a lot. And if I don't get through everything tonight, we will continue this on Thursday. So, because there is a lot to cover. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started. If you guys have questions, I ask that you wait for me to answer them after I'm done, because I don't want to lose my train of thought and my thought process. But I will try to answer all your questions. So there are many types of predators who lurk in the shadows. And one specific type often eludes even the most ardent of hikers who dare to venture into its habitat. The ghost cat, as it is often referred to, is also known as catamount, puma, cougar, panther, mountain lion, Mexican lion, the American lion, screamer, and toho. These fearless predators are so good at camouflage and stealthy hunting that you may never know that you have been seen and hunted by this predator while you're out on your hike. They are rarely ever seen by humans. Even though we tend to hike and play in their territory, they just elude us. If you have ever hiked in the hills behind Malibu, California, you have been seen by these solitary giants. And Malibu State Park is no exception. Many of us have heard of Malibu. I can't imagine anyone not knowing or have heard of Malibu, California, at least people from the United States. Malibu is considered one of the most upscale, posh living and playing areas in Southern California. It has beautiful coastlines. It has pristine beaches, and the hills are shadowed by woods and lush green areas. And it gives the person who visits or who calls it home a sense of awe and wonder. And it does boast some of the most beautiful sunsets in the world. Being so close to huge populations such as Los Angeles, California, and being in Los Angeles County that has tons of concrete roadways, cars, pollution. Well, being in Malibu is quite the contrast to all of that, let me tell you. Hey, Butterfly Kisses, welcome. It is home to celebrities, the rich, the famous, the millionaires, the billionaires who live there. They find it relaxing and peaceful. Calabasas is here. And it has the face of an uptown small community. And you could easily run into A-listers here. This is where the Kardashians live. There is also a dark side to Malibu, and a side that no one likes to talk about much. And it is in the early morning hours of June 22nd, 2018, that the campground at Malibu State Park was packed. These campsites are in a very large ring in the middle of a meadow with large oak trees. There are hills and mountains that shine above in the open sky. It is 4 a.m., still dark, and all is quiet as the campers are still sound asleep in their nylon tents and RVs. Someone wasn't asleep, though. They were awake and they were watching, silently moving within the shadows of the peaceful campground. And he had a gun. And he fired it into an unsuspecting family's tent. Inside this tent was a 35-year-old brilliant research scientist named Tristan Beaudette. He was sleeping next to his 2 young toddler daughters. The bullet struck Tristan in the forehead, killing him instantly. Then he slipped away into the darkness and left his carnage behind. The story I am about to tell you is a story of unspeakable evil, and it is the one that strikes fear in all who hear it. It is a story like one you would read in a novel of fiction or a Hollywood back lot somewhere. But this story is true, and it did happen. When I learned about Tristan's story last year, early in the spring, through his cousin Fig Solves, I could not stop thinking about him and his precious little girls and that awful morning. How does this happen? How does this happen in all places, Malibu, California, and near a gated and highly secured community of Calabasas? It seems surreal. A man was found dead in a ditch along a mountain road. And there also was other incidents in Malibu. There were incidents of shots being fired in the canyon overlooking Malibu. What was going on in Malibu? Tristan went camping with his 2 young daughters, ages 2 and 4, and his brother-in-law, Scott McCurdy, and Scott's 2 young boys. Tristan's youngest daughter was just learning to talk. And Scott is the closest thing to a witness of what transpired and happened that morning. Tristan always had a bucket list, Scott would say, of things that he wanted to do, and camping in Malibu State Park was on that bucket list. Years ago, before Scott and Tristan had kids, the 2 had gone to Malibu Creek State Park, and they always wanted to go back. Tristan and his wife, Erica, were about to move from Orange County up to the Bay Area near San Francisco. Erica is an OBGYN, and she had a medical exam to study for that weekend. So Tristan offered to take his girls and do this trip. Scott said he would be on board with it. It'd be just the dads and the kiddos in Malibu Creek State Park. They headed up for their weekend adventure. Upon arriving, they drove past the ranger booth and onto a paved road that is basically a large winding circular road with campsites all around the circle. They found their campsite, and Tristan was not happy. He didn't like it because it wasn't level, and he said that you would be leaning to one side or the other the entire weekend. So they decided one of them would go back to the ranger hut or booth, and ask for a different site. They were allowed to move to campsite number 49 at the northern end of the meadow. They noticed that the guy next to them was leaving, so they asked if they could use his site too, so they could spread out a little. And he said, sure, no problem. Tristan set his tent up there in campsite number 51. And then they headed to Surfrider Beach with their children in tow. This is the famous strip along Pacific Coast Highway, right next to the Malibu Pier. And they spent a busy day at the beach and then headed back to Malibu Creek State Park to have a quiet night around the campfire. Tristan always brought great food and delicious cocktails when they camped, Scott said. This was no different. He had pre-mixed Manhattans and brought with him, along with some delicious finger foods. The last conversation that Scott and Tristan had was about family, and they talked for hours and hours after the kids were in bed. Scott told him how much he was going to miss him. As it was getting later, they decided that they should call it a night, and they put out their campfire. Scott wasn't sure about the time, but he thought it was around 1 a.m. Scott gave him a big hug and told him he loved him, and again, how much he was going to miss him. Scott said it made him sad, but also happy at the same time, because at least he got that. A few hours later, Scott was awakened by a loud noise, like fireworks, and the sound of one of his nieces crying. He couldn't figure out why Tristan wasn't helping her, and he knew that something must be terribly wrong. He got up, leaving his two boys sleeping, and hurried over to Tristan's tent. He opened the flap, and in the dark, he could see the girls kneeling beside their dad. One of them kept saying, "Wet, wet, wet." He dug around for a phone, and when he found it, he used it as a flashlight, and he rolled Tristan over and saw his face covered in blood. And the girls were kneeling in a pool of it, and that is what was wet. He grabbed the girls and pulled them out of the tent into the chilly early morning air and began to scream for help. At the autopsy, the time of his death, Tristan was wearing a gray t-shirt, blue shorts, and white socks. His face was unshaven, and he had a little alcohol in his system and a little THC. Near his hairline of his forehead was an oval hole where a copper jacket bullet had pierced his brain, and it was removed from his right shoulder blade. The box for homicide was checked on the autopsy paper. And on the GSR data sheet, which stands for gunshot residue, it also was checked. But everything about Tristan's death can only be learned by omissions and gaps in the narrative. The weapon was described as an outstanding make and model, was described as outstanding, and the make and model unknown. The ammunition brand and caliber was also unknown. The number of shots fired is left blank. How did the injury occur? And it simply states shot by another. When Tristan was killed, rumors started flying around Malibu. Tristan had worked at a pharmaceutical company and had posted research on vaccines. Probably he had been targeted by Big Pharma and assassinated by them or the government, is what the rumor mill spread. Or the perpetrator was a disgruntled park employee or park worker, possibly ex-military, or the illegal marijuana growers that everyone knows is a problem inside Malibu Creek State Park. Scott said they moved spots twice and then ended up in another spot offered by a perfect stranger, points to the randomness of this murder. Scott was there. He was with Tristan the whole time, and he was baffled. Shane, this is the Malibu Creek State Park murder of Tristan Beaudette, Fig Solve's cousin, in California. Campgrounds for Tristan was a sanctuary, you guys. You could go and relax, let your guard down, do a little bit of hiking, let the kids play, have fun setting up your campsite and your tent, and just hang out with people that you love. Scott thinks about Malibu differently now. He said, you have this great spot in the world where you should be able to go and enjoy nature. And you just don't think in a place so beautiful that you are going to experience something so evil. Thinking about Tristan and his great love of nature and the outdoors, I'm sure he felt safe that night. He had no idea what was lurking just past the shadows or how vulnerable he was inside that tent with his two little girls. Going camping anywhere, you could run into a bear or a mountain lion. Those are the inherent risks in nature that could be present. And if it happens and there is a bear, the idea of that is really, really scary. But that is usually posted, on signs near campsites and campgrounds, that there are known predators out there and to be aware. So you keep your kids a little bit closer and safer when you're in that situation, or you don't take them at all. Scott says you would never go to a campground where there is a known human predator on the loose. No one would ever do that. We did not know there was this danger at this park, and had we known, we would never have put our children in harm's way. It was only after Tristan's death that Scott and everyone else found out that there was a huge danger. People were being targeted in Malibu Creek State Park, and law enforcement knew, and Tristan was not the first victim. From 2016 to 2018, there was a series of shootings in and around Malibu Creek State Park. One person was injured, but no one had died. These were near misses, 6 of them. 1,000 feet above Malibu in a helicopter, hang on, guys, sorry. Dana Goodyear, who is a writer for The New Yorker and does the podcast The Lost Hills, is with Terry Wright, a retired sergeant detective with the Lost Hills Station in Malibu, a small outpost of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Office, and it covers law enforcement for this whole area. from coastal Malibu to Calabasas and the miles and miles of wilderness. And he says it's a beautiful area. It's a wild area, rugged terrain. The sunsets are breathtaking. Some of the most expensive real estate in the world sits on the beach, shoulder to shoulder. Malibu Colony is very famous and well known. Rich and famous occupy those homes. Then there is Malibu Canyon Road, a major road which connects the beach and the valley. Over 20,000 cars travel it every single day. Hidden Hills area is right here as well. And that's where the Kardashians live. Then there is Malibu Creek State Park, which is wild and pristine. Volcanic rocks, savannas, and grasslands is what the Malibu Creek State Park is. The opening scene of the hit TV series of the 70s, MASH, was filmed here. But Sergeant Wright sees something different. He sees the killing zone. Sergeant Wright was the head of search and rescue in the mountainous terrain below. This put him right in the middle of the investigation into Tristan Beaudette's murder. Everything that happened before and everything that happened after it. In November of 2016, at Tapia, a picnic spot at the edge of the Malibu Creek State Park, a backpacker named Jimmy Rogers was shot and hurt, but he survived. He was sleeping in his hammock that was slung between two trees. This was near miss number 1. Down in the Malibu Creek State Park is where the next 2 incidents occurred. Less than a week later, and a mile away in the campground where Tristan was killed, a man was shot at while he was inside his camper. Near miss number 2. 2 months later, in January of 2017, there was another shooting in the same campground. This time, a couple sleeping in their car. Near miss number 3. Then in the summer of 2017, the targets seemed to change to moving cars along the canyon road. In the span of a few weeks, first a white Porsche and a white BMW were hit with gunfire. Near misses number 4 and number 5. On the park side of the canyon road is a hill well concealed by bushes and trees. And Sergeant Wright's theory is that a shooter lay in wait here, firing upon approaching cars coming up the canyon road. It is a good elevated position where you have immediate cover and an immediate escape in any direction. The shootings in the Malibu Creek State Park and the Canyon Road were bizarre, and they were completely unexplainable. They all happened around the same time of day, however, around 3 to 4 a.m. Each one involved a single shot. But after near miss number 5, things went quiet. And 11 months passed without another shooting. Until June 18th, 2018. Early that morning, around 4 a.m., a Tesla, a white one, was hit in the hood, near miss number 6. "20 months of shooting, you guys. Law enforcement did not alert the public. The sheriff's department stayed silent, and so did the California state parks. There were no press conferences, nothing posted at the Malibu Creek State Park entryway, no seeking information flyers, nothing. Not even a suggestion to remain vigilant. And 4 days later, after the Tesla was shot, Tristan Beaudette was killed in the campground. When Sergeant Wright gets the call that there had been a shooting at the campground, this wasn't new for him. His greatest fear was that this was a serial shooter and that he would end up killing someone. So he admits law enforcement was potentially worried early on that there was a serial killer at large. They thought he was looking for victims and that Malibu Creek State Park and the Canyon Road were his hunting ground. While millions of people oblivious to the danger continued to hike the trails, camp in the park, and drive on the Canyon Road. Even Dana Goodyear, the host of the podcast, The Lost Hills, she took her own kids to Malibu Creek State Park in early 2018. They walked the 3-mile walk to the rock pool. It's a famous swimming spot. And they checked out the teenagers jumping from the ledges and talked about camping in the campground. When it got warmer, they would come back. She says it is hard to not wonder and look back on that and wonder what would have happened had they done that. After Tristan's murder, there was a public outcry about the Canyon shooter. The campground was temporarily closed. Although no one was in custody, the rest of the park did remain open. People were still allowed to go hiking. And there still was no sign posted about what had transpired there. Then, about a month after the murder, there was a rash of mysterious burglaries in commercial buildings around the periphery of the park. Scrounging, desperate stuff. Not laptops or cell phones or things that you would think of value, but sandwiches from the fridge, candy, junk food, cinnamon rolls, food from vending machines. There was a vending machine that had a glass front that had been smashed out with a rock, and a couple of the places had video surveillance, and a guy was caught on camera. He was masked, wearing a headlamp, and carrying a backpack with what appeared to be a rifle sticking out of it. The Calabasas Recreation Center, which happens to be next door to the sheriff's station, the place where all these crimes took place, is essentially the backyard of the sheriff's station. And the last burglary was literally next door. So he came within 50 to 100 yards of the sheriff's station. Sergeant Wright followed boot prints up into the dusty, desolate hills behind the sheriff's station. There was a huge oak tree nestled up against the side of the hill, and he figured there was a camp there. A half a dozen sheriff's deputies followed his hunch and returned to the site of the last boot print. As they moved up and down within the hills, the only sound was the sheriff department helicopter that was hovering overhead. But then a deputy heard a strange clanging noise coming from a ridge to the west, echoing in the canyon. The deputy dropped to his knees and looked through the scope on his rifle, and he saw a man. He saw the whites of his eyes, as he later would testify, clean-cut, early 40s, wearing all black with a backpack and a rifle sticking out the top. The deputies jumped him right outside his camp. He tried to flee, and they immediately were on him. He tossed the backpack, and you could see the rifle sticking out of the top. The man was Anthony Rauda, 44 years old, a vagrant, a loner, who had been living in the hills on and off for years. The cops celebrated. Was this the mystery of the Canyon shooter all wrapped up? Sergeant Wright, who helped lead law enforcement to Rauter's camp, admits it seems all too neat. A drifter living behind the station, hiding in plain sight and plain view. That guy is responsible for what may be Malibu's most violent crime wave in history. It would take some nerve to commit a burglary right next door to a police station, wouldn't it? Why would someone commit a murder and hold on to the same weapon and then commit burglaries on videotape, not even attempting to hide themselves other than putting on a mask? It's an assumption most criminals would think if your face is captured on video tape with a weapon, there's going to be a heightened effort to engage them. And that is exactly what happened here. So it has been a long morning in a cold courtroom in Los Angeles, and Anthony Rauda is late for his hearing. Officially, at this stage, the charges have nothing to do with Tristan Beaudette's murder. He is in violation of his post-release community service supervision, meaning he is an ex-felon, and he hasn't shown up to meet with his probation officer for 2 years. He is not supposed to have weapons or ammunition. The deputies who arrested him at his campsite say he had both. Unofficially, though, the charges seem to have everything to do with the killing in Malibu Creek State Park. Only a few hours after his arrest, the sheriff himself held a press conference at the Hall of Justice. That's department headquarters in downtown Los Angeles. And while they didn't say Rauter was a suspect in the shootings or the murder, it was a big show. The captain of Major Crimes Bureau, the Lost Hills captain, the official from California State Parks were all present, and Rauda is now being held without bail. Hey, Louisa. Rauda is finally brought into court and guided into his seat. In the front row are 2 detectives from the Major Crimes Unit who were handling the Tristan Beaudette murder investigation. Rauda is pale, like indoor pale, not like the leather-beaten outdoorsman you would be expecting to see. His hair is dark and slicked back, a little goatee and blue jumpsuit. His wrists were cuffed behind his back. There is a plexiglass partition separating him from the rest of the courtroom. But he has something to say, and he tells the judge he wants to speak. His public defender asks it be off the record, and the judge says no and denies the request. Rauter says he doesn't give a shit, he wants to speak. You don't have a right to speak the judge says, interrupting the judge. Rauter says, I'm gonna frickin' speak. The judge says, you can speak through your attorney, sir. He said, no, I'm not. I'm not cooperating with the public defender's office anymore. Rauda hurls himself against the plexiglass. He shouts profanities at the court and the bailiff ends up calling for help, and a bunch of deputies appear. They kick all the reporters out, but they forget that they had left open microphones up at the front of the courtroom. And that is when Rauda tells the judge to go F himself. The defense attorney says he thinks his client is overwrought, having been in custody, and he seems mad at everyone. The judge, the DA, the bailiff, even the public defender, the one person who wants to help him. Rauda appears desperate, furious, and trapped. Several weeks later, when Rauda again appears in court, he has gone through a disturbing transformation. He is strapped to a restraint chair. His face is covered by a mesh mask to stop him from spitting at the deputies. His head lolls to one side as if he is under heavy sedation. The defense attorney speaks with Dana Goodyear at the back of the courtroom and says he doesn't think they have enough to charge Rauda with murder. He said something is wrong. This guy didn't do it. He's crazy. There was so much pressure they had to arrest somebody. He believes Rauda is a sacrificial lamb to appease the Malibu community. Malibu has two distinct groups, the coast people and the hill people, the super rich and the homesteaders. What they have in common is as deep in the DNA of this place as anything. They both don't like outsiders. This is a private paradise. You may visit, but you better not stay. And you best not ask questions, or walls will go up. Dana Goodyear finds this out when she first starts reporting on the murder of Tristan Beaudette. The cops at Lost Hills Station wanted nothing to do with Dana. Someone who is not from around here looking into a series of shootings, crimes around Malibu, trying to figure out who is responsible for Tristan's murder, no thanks. When she does reach someone at the Lost Hills Station, they immediately transfer to headquarters in downtown LA, where she is drowned in press releases. Malibu, California is a tourist town, only 13,000 residents, but 13 million visit here every year. Hey, Fig, how are you, my dear? Oh, I'm so glad to see you. Thank you for being here, my dear. The Malibu of the rich and famous is not available for the public. Dana starts believing Malibu has a lot to do with these crimes. In the weeks after Tristan was murdered, everyone was panicked, and they kept calling 911 saying that they heard gunfire in the night. Neighbors did not believe law enforcement was taking them seriously, and the near misses and the near miss victims were starting to speak out. All of the stories of the near misses had one thing in common. They all believed the police acted like they just didn't care. The Porsche near miss number 4 reported he waited 30 minutes for a patrol car to come. When when one did, it passed him by without even stopping, and he finally had to drive himself down to the Lost Hills station. And he demanded deputies take a report. One dug metal pellets out of his car, but did not turn them in for evidence. Did anyone even want to solve these crimes? Residents wanted answers, but law enforcement kept putting out press releases that the shootings and the June 22nd murder of Tristan had no evidence showing they were related. Finally, State Senator Henry Stern called a public safety meeting in August, the first since all of this started. We need to take our land back, he said. We don't want to be known in this region for these kinds of incidents. We don't want to live in fear. November 3rd, 2016 to June 22nd of 2018. The series of shootings that led up to the June 22nd murder of Tristan Beaudette law enforcement still continues to say that they cannot confirm that the series of events are related. And it just seems crazy. A specific area of the park and the canyon road are being targeted repeatedly. How do they not see this? Law enforcement isn't calming anyone down. What they are saying doesn't even seem true, and it actually creates more hysteria. A couple of weeks later, Dana goes on to meet with a local blogger, Cece Woods. And she's a very popular Malibu blogger. She thinks law enforcement is involved in a massive cover-up. No one is in custody, and the vacuum of information that is left without law enforcement commenting on what is actually going on in the investigation, Cece is filling it. Boy, we all know what that's like, right? Cece takes Dana up the canyon road to meet someone who was just shot at a few days ago. He said he was shot at while he was hiking. One shot. He called Lost Hills Station and nothing. 9:44 a.m. in the morning is when it happened. He felt it was a smaller caliber weapon, and one deputy was interested. was interested. Tui Wright, Sergeant Wright. He called him back. 2 weeks after the meeting with the hiker about his being shot at, Anthony Rauda was captured. No one in Malibu believed it. They think it's a setup and that Rauda is taking the fall. Less than a month after Rauda's arrest, the Woolsey Fire ravages Malibu. The Woolsey Fire actually engulfed 97,000 acres. It was one of the most destructive fires in California state history. 70-mile-an-hour devil winds propel the fire through the canyons. Rauda's camp, the place the shooter laid in wait on the canyon road, the campsite where Tristan lost his life, all went up in smoke. Dana goes with Cece to Point Doom, where some of the worst destruction has taken place. The fire is utterly terrifying. And Dana and Cece witnessed this firsthand. Yeah, Fig, me either. She's kind of out there. Oswald Rauda is the father of Anthony. And Dana contacts him. She actually contacts him at the courthouse. Ozzy is relieved that his son wasn't out there as the fire burnt right through his camp. But he said other fires years past, he always worried, did my son set them? Anthony has a history of combustion, shooting things off, setting things on fire. He has done stints in county jail and state prison. Anthony decided to move to the mountains away from everyone, Ozzy said. And one thing about the residents of Malibu, they do not like the homeless. A few weeks later, back in court, the evidence being presented is about the gun and the ammunition that was found when they arrested Rauda. A 9mm carbine rifle is what they found on him. 2 magazines carrying 9mm rounds and extra 9mm rounds in his backpack. Near misses through number 5 did not use 9mm rounds. They were shotgun rounds. The months after his arrest, Anthony Rauda was charged with 1 count of murder and 10 counts of attempted murder and 5 counts of burglary. Rauda pleads not guilty. Rauda writes a letter to Dana and says he could never kill innocent people. He said the family of Tristan can blame the sheriff's office. That's where justice is at. Crazy. Erica Wu is Tristan Beaudette's wife, and she believes that she's been through a horrible nightmare. She woke up alone that morning, the whole reason Tristan had taken the girls and gone to Malibu, so she could study and take her big exam. Then there was a knock on her door, and her sister is there. And then they're driving to Malibu. It was all a blur. They had told her over the phone that Tristan was dead, but that the girls were safe. Erica tried to get to the campground, and a ranger tells her that nothing like this ever happens here. Erica was like, but it just did. It wasn't until later that they all would learn that there was much more danger that day than anyone knew. Erica decides to talk to Dana Goodyear about her experience, but she tells Dana she doesn't want to talk about the murder. She doesn't want to talk about what happened that day. All she wants to do is talk about Tristan. Erica had taken the job in the Bay Area and went ahead and moved her girls to San Francisco. They did not move into the same place that she and Tristan had chose, but she chose a new place. Everywhere in the apartment are pictures of Tristan. There are lots of pictures of the family out in the wilderness doing the things that Tristan loved with his family. And she wants people to remember Tristan for how he lived and not how he died. Tristan and Erica grew up in Fresno, California, in the middle of farm country and where the credit card was invented. Erica was the fourth of 5 girls, and she was serious but reserved. In her senior year, she met Tristan, a happy, exuberant guy with tons of confidence. And she says, after all, we were in high school, but he was really something else. She said he wore everything on his sleeve. He was my first serious boyfriend. After graduation, Erica went to Stanford and Tristan went abroad for a year, and then to UC San Diego. At his graduation from college, he surprised everyone with the highest GPA in his college. He was very, very good at chemistry. Erica said he was the smartest person she ever knew. And they were married in 2008. Erica said that Tristan got along with everyone. And with all of Erica's sisters, there were lots of brother-in-laws. And he fit right in. And Scott and he became very close. And he loved planning family adventures. When he became a father, his love of nature took on a whole new dimension. The days before he died are vivid in Erica's memory. How could they not be? First, there was a Father's Day celebration. They went to the beach. It was a beautiful day, she remembers. And then they began getting ready for their big move up to the bay. Erica was super busy with work and studying nonstop for her big exam. Erica helped get the girls ready and get them out of the house that morning. Erica laughs because she said that Tristan, even though he was a hands-on father, he could never get the girls' hair right. So she went ahead and fixed the girls' hair for him that morning and said, just leave it like this the entire weekend. Everyone was excited to go on the trip. I told him to be careful with the girls. Tristan sent her pictures throughout the day, letting them know what they were doing at the beach. And she loved seeing them. But she also worried every time the girls and Tristan were out away from her. She just felt safer when they were all together. Erica feels like she lost everything when Tristan died. She said the woman she used to be, Tristan's wife, is gone forever. Erica struggled to get information on Tristan's case from the Lost Hills station, and they kept citing the ongoing investigation. They could not talk to her about anything because of the ongoing investigation. She filed a $900 million claim against the county. The Sheriff's Department and the State Department of Parks. And because they had allowed the shooting to occur. There was a real danger, and they knew about it and did nothing, and they didn't warn anyone. They said nothing to the public. It is their fault that her husband, Tristan, is not with us anymore. The Los Angeles Sheriff's Department has 10,000 deputies, and they cover a 3,000 square mile area in Los Angeles County. From the time of Tristan's death to the time of Anthony Rauda's arrest, law enforcement offered little to the public. No warnings, nothing. And people were left to figure out things for themselves. There were a lot of similarities between the near misses and Tristan's murder. But the cops kept repeating the same old story that they were not related. But after Rauda's arrest, that seemed to all change suddenly. The crimes were all related. One person had done them all. Memorial Day weekend 2019, the park is opened up again after the fire. Dana Goodyear goes camping at the site. She decides she absolutely has to see where this crime and these crimes were committed. When she arrives at the Malibu Creek State Park, she asks for Site 51, and they tell her that it has already been reserved. She asks for Site 49, which is where Scott McCready had stayed, which is right next to campsite number 51. And they tell her that is fine. She gets to the campsite and she notices that there are signs that say animals at night, coyote, bobcats, raccoons. Please be aware. But there is nothing about mountain lions. Dana pitches her tent and at some point after dinner decides it's time to try to get some sleep. As she lays inside her tent, she can't sleep, and she realizes that this is going to be a sleepless night. Every single sound she hears, she's awake. It begins to rain. She thinks she hears something outside her tent. She thinks she hears someone walking. She had met a couple while she was pitching her tent that was across the way, and they were a new married couple that had decided to come to the campground and camp. When she gets up in the morning, she realizes that the couple didn't stay, and they had gotten up in the middle of the night and left. This campground is the site of Tristan's murder and 2 of the near misses. People are vulnerable, she thought as she lay in her tent. People are really vulnerable in tents, period. On November 9th, 2016, Ron Carson was sleeping in his camper at campsite number 58. Shotgun pellets were fired into the wall right by his head. At campsite number 57, this is where the other near miss happened on January 7th of 2017. A woman and her boyfriend were sleeping in their car when they were awakened by a very loud bang. The next morning, they found a hole in their trunk, and a law enforcement officer found a shotgun slug in the trunk. These 3 locations are just a couple hundred yards away from each other. The shootings happened in a tight cluster in the same corner of the campground where a footpath disappears into the woods. Dana decides to follow it. The path heads north into the mountains, and Anthony Rauda lived about 3 miles away and where he was arrested. If you continued to walk this path, she is confident you would walk to his camp. It's not that far. There are only about 200 homeless people that live in Malibu. There are the beach dwellers, the city dwellers who hang out near the library, and the mountain folk or homesteaders, as Anthony Rauda was. The tent that Tristan was killed in was never booked into evidence. It was never examined. It couldn't be, because California state parks threw it away. When Dana was doing her research for her podcast, she was like, this is unbelievable. How do you throw away a crime scene? How do you take a crime scene and throw it into the garbage knowing that a murder took place there? Dana goes back out to the area one weekend on a Sunday to participate in a hike, a 3-mile hike with an ex-Malibu Creek State Park ranger. As they're walking, the ranger points to some areas around the hills and said that this is where the original film back in the 1960s, Planet of the Apes, was filmed. It was filmed in Malibu Creek State Park. And he said this is just one of the jewels of the Santa Monica Mountains. Dana found out that the park revenue fell by 50% after Tristan died. A loss of about $700,000 compared to the year before. The element of danger seems to be gone, the park ranger said, since Rauda has been arrested. Anthony Rauda goes on trial for Tristan Beaudette's murder next Wednesday, May 3rd at 8 a.m. in the downtown LA courthouse. There's a lot more to cover on this case, but I thought I would wait to do that until Thursday night because there's a lot more, you guys, about this. It is such a sad story, and one that I don't think people truly realize all that was lost on that day. When Fig would talk to me about Tristan, when we would have our conversations, one of the things that caught me was that Tristan was doing some very, very important cancer research on vaccines at the time that he was murdered. He was very, very intelligent. And I firmly believe that he would have gone on to do great things in cancer research. But the biggest thing is that he lost the ability to see his little girls grow up. And those little girls lost their dad. And they lost him in such a horrific manner. One wonders how that may affect them in their lives as they grow. Fig, as we all know, remains close to them, and I think he will always step in if need be to help them in any way that they need help. I don't know, Steffa, if they're covering it on camera or not. I'll try and find that out, but I'm not sure. And he was a compassionate man, one who was full of life and just unimaginable. He was a gift, is what I'm trying to say. He was a gift not only to his family, he was a gift to everyone who knew him. In all the research I did on Tristan, I don't think you could find anybody that had anything bad to say about him. He was just a kind, loving, gentle soul. He loved the outdoors. He loved being in nature. He wanted to share those things with his girls, which is what led him to go to that park camping that weekend. He was busy. They were getting ready to make a huge move to the Northern California, and he wanted them to get to experience a place that he loved. And in doing so, he lost his life. A senseless act, just a horrific act. And it's sad. There's just no getting around it. It's sad. Hold on a second, you guys. I'm looking for something. If you guys have questions, you can put them in the chat and I will try and answer them for you. Just give me a minute. I want to pull up some photographs of him so you guys get to see what he what he looked like and how happy he was in life with his family. Okay. So I think this will help. All right, guys, just give me a sec here while I share my screen with you. All right, so here's the here is the entrance to the Malibu Creek State Park. Well, doggone it. Just when you think StreamYard's going to be, is going to work for me. It's kind of crazy. This is the campsite. So these are the two tents. And And this is his tent. This is Tristan's tent. And this here is Scott's tent. And you can see their chairs were still out around the campfire. They had a picnic table, and it was under a grove of trees. There was a grove of trees right here by them. So yeah, you can see the campsite. Um, and this is what the area looks like, you guys. This is what, thanks, Fig. Thank you so much for letting me know, my dear. I appreciate you. This is what it looks like. So you can see how beautiful it is there and how the mountains are all back there. And, you know, you've got this grassland and all of these beautiful trees. And you can see how it would be just a really nice place to kind of go and relax, you know, with your family. Hang on a second. I'm just trying to move some pictures, guys. And here's a picture of Tristan. You can see the resemblance to Fig when you look at him. I can see the resemblance to Fig very well in this picture. Oh, doggone it. Hold on a second, you guys. I'm having an issue here. I don't know why I'm having so much trouble with this. Oh, there it is. Okay, so this is just another closer picture of the campsite. This was Tristan's tent, and you can see the crime scene investigators and the investigators all around there. Yes, Steffa, he was very handsome. And he had the best smile. His smile is just incredible. Oh, come on. Here's another picture of him. Just a great smile. Somebody, you can just kind of see how he was the person. I can see him being a person who loves having a great time. You can almost see him kind of maybe being a person that would be kind of goofy at times. I just love the smile. As far as we know, Steffa, this was somebody who who shot, who was not up close when he fired. So no, we do not believe that he was anywhere close to the tent. He fired his rifle from away, from a distance. And this is the picture of the suspect. So this is a picture, obviously, of Tristan, and this is a picture of Anthony Rauda. He just has that, I don't know, he's just got a great smile, and he just, to me, looks like Fig. I mean, they could have been brothers rather than cousins, in my opinion. I've always thought Fig was a handsome guy. Um, and I'm gonna show this picture. Normally I wouldn't, I don't think, but I'm going to tonight. I want you guys to see what his family was like. And this is a picture of Tristan and his family. And these are his two daughters that were witnesses to what happened to him. And of course, Erica, his wife. And I just want everyone to keep Fig and his family in your prayers, because this is going to be a really tough time for them, to go through this trial and have to relive everything that transpired that day and that morning. I wish I could hug him, and give him a huge hug from me, because I just want to be there for him so much. I just think it brings back what we all talk about on my channel, and that we have for over a year, you guys, is that these cases that we talk about are real people with real families and real loved ones who are left behind. And that's why it's so important that we cover these cases with respect for the families and respect for their feelings and the things that that they go through. And you know what I'm talking about. You know the creators or the people out there that don't do that don't give respect to those who are left behind. And that's just something that I always want us to never lose sight of, that even though we cover cases and we talk about cases, they're real people. It's not fictional. There are real feelings here. And I think it took a lot for Fig to tell me about it, and to open up to me. And when I found out that he had been approached by major networks and people wanting him to talk, and he refused, but he was willing to talk to me, that really made me feel like I was doing something right here on my channel. Louisa, he had taken his girls along with his brother-in-law and their two sons away for the weekend. His wife needed to study for a medical exam that she was taking, and he wanted to give her all the quiet and privacy she could have while she studied. So yeah, I guess a mini vacation, I guess you could say, because it was just over the weekend. They were coming back home. And it just lets us all know how precious life is and how quickly things can change. You just never know. And, a father decides to take his children on an outing overnight, and, lo and behold, he would have never in his wildest dreams had thought something like that would happen. And just like Scott, his brother-in-law, said, had he and Tristan known the danger that was lurking in those hills and that there had been an active shooter for over 20 months, they would have never taken their children there and spent the night. They would have not done it. So it was negligent on the family's part. And I will tell you guys, we'll get into it more on Thursday night, but I am going to tell you, Erica lost her suit against the county of Los Angeles. She did not win anything from them. So, yeah. It's just terrible. Absolutely terrible. And I just wanted to give it I was thinking of it anyway. I was thinking of covering Tristan's case again anyway, because he's been on my mind. But I think it's just kind of interesting how things have all played out, and now we're here and we're at the trial. And I think you guys can see, how we talk about Delphi and how everybody's, really wanting everything to happen with Delphi. I think you can see when even just look at this case, how long it can take things to get to trial. Because again, Tristan's case happened 5 years ago. So it can take a while for these cases to make it to court. And again, that's another thing that weighs heavily on the family. Love you, Fig. Love you, my friend. And like I said, I think it's, Erica has started her new life with the girls, and she's up in Northern California. She's a physician. She has her own practice, I'm sure, and is a very busy lady. And she's trying to create a life for the girls without the love of her life. Oh, yeah. It does touch us differently, Steffa, because we do know Fig, and because we all cover, like I said, we all cover these cases. But when you finally know someone that has been touched in such a horrific way by this genre that we cover, it really puts a different light on things. And it, like I said, it goes to show you how quickly things mistakes are made in cases, and how cases sometimes just don't pan out the way you think they're going to. um oh, Louisa, thank you so much for showing up. I so appreciate you, and you are so wonderful. Thank you so much, Louisa. I hope you have a good evening, my dear. I actually miss Fig. I miss him putting out content, because he has such a good perspective on all of this. But he knows that, and he's just a busy guy. He has a lot on his plate in his real life, let alone having a YouTube life. But I like that he's in the back, behind the scenes in some of our cases, trying to find out information and trying to get to the bottom of things. Oh, Dave, what are you going to do with a sledgehammer? What's wrong? You be careful. And like I said, I don't think any of us have to look too far to know how important covering this stuff is, and getting the word out and the names out for these cases and these people. Because I'm sure if you asked Fig, or you asked Erica, or you asked Scott, or whatever, they just don't want Tristan to be forgotten. And they definitely don't want him remembered as just a victim. And it's important to bring light to who this person was. I know that that's been always one of my biggest fears about my son, is that he would be forgotten. And I think that's what we worry about when we lose loved ones. I hear you, Steffa, for sure. Preventing crimes, not causing crime. But yeah, he's gonna get the sledgehammer, I guess. So how are you guys? What did you guys do you guys have any questions? Do you have anything that you want me to maybe answer on Thursday? There's a little bit more, like I said, that I'm going to cover about what happened after his arrest and some of that. But and what's led up the last, what's been going on all these years until till now. If you guys have any questions, please make sure you let me know. I certainly, if I don't know, I'll certainly find out from Fig if it's something that that I can, share. There'll be certain things that we can't talk about, obviously, because of it being still an ongoing case. I did talk with Fig, though, about the case, and I do feel that they have the right guy. I do believe he is responsible for this crime, from what I know. So, but and like I said, I think it's like any case, you're going to have those people that are on the outside of it, on the fringe, and Cece Wood is one of them. She was filling narrative when law enforcement wouldn't talk. She started talking conspiracy theories and how, they just pinned it on this guy, this homeless guy, and all of this other stuff in her blog, in the blogging that she was doing. And I think that's detrimental. And we've talked about that. I think that kind of stuff is so detrimental to cases. Yes, Steffa, he does believe that law enforcement has arrested the correct person. He does believe that. Because that was one of the things that he and I talked about. And I do believe this guy has some serious mental issues. I'm hoping that they were able to get him some treatment, which they must have been able to, because he's obviously deemed able to go to trial. So, and that will be next Wednesday. So, and Fig will be there. And my heart goes out to him, as I will be thinking about him having to go through that and sit through that. But I'm glad he'll be there with Tristan's brother. What else was I going to say? Oh, I know what I wanted to mention to you guys, and I didn't do my updates like in the beginning, because out of respect for Tristan and his family, I really wanted to cover his case right off the bat and just get to it and get it out of, not out of the way, but I didn't want anything really interrupting it, because of how close I feel to this case now. I wanted to say that if you guys heard about Brian Koberger, I'm not sure if you guys heard the updates or not, but I posted one on my community page earlier today about about him, and the fact that the prosecutors in the case, the prosecutor in the Brian Koberger case, has asked the state for 2 special prosecutors, and it has been granted. So yeah, that's all that Nick McClellan has to do in Delphi, is ask for help. And the state should grant it to him. So let's hope he does, you guys, because I think the Delphi case is going to be much harder, just because of the length of time that they have gone between the crime and the arrests. Oh, Mitzi, you are so wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And they do need justice. And Miracle Heart, thank you so much for your love to Fig. Thank you. So I know he appreciates it all from all of you. He does. He is he's one of the best. But yeah, I wanted to make sure that you guys knew about that update. And I thought that that was wonderful news. And it gives me hope that possibly in Delphi that Nick McClellan will do the same and ask for some help in this case. What else was I going to say? There was something else I wanted to tell you guys about, and I can't remember what it was now. I was looking for it, but I thought it was in my notes, but I don't see it. So yeah, Steffa, I agree. The Carroll County Board did not want to give a $5,000 raise. So I think a special prosecutor is in need. McClellan has never tried a murder. I think that it's really important to Abby and Libby's case. And I really, really, really hope that somebody is in his ear asking for it as well. And oh, you're so welcome, Indy, Pam. Thank you so much for being here. Like I said, I think it's interesting how you can get 100 people to tune in for Delphi, but when you cover another case, you only get maybe 45 or 50. It's real interesting to me how that works. But you guys that show up, for these cases, I appreciate it. And I know the family does. I know Fig does, because it's important. And, Maria and I were talking about it today. It's really hard to kind of go along with these cases and not get emotionally kind of attached as you're doing them. But yeah, Tristan's case and his story really, really hit home with me. And I just can't believe all that was lost that day. Because I firmly believe that he could have made a huge breakthrough in medicine because of how intelligent he was and what he was working on. So it certainly is. Yeah, it makes you just kind of wonder why things like this have to happen in our world. I know I pray about it a lot. Lots of prayers going up. Do you guys have any cases that you would like to see me cover? I am going to be looking into the Kendrick Johnson case. I have wanted to cover his case since I've really been on YouTube, and I just haven't because it's going to be a long one. It's not going to be something that I can do probably in one stream, and I want to make sure that I cover that case as well and give that case as much attention as it deserves. So I am going to be covering that within the next month. That's on my plan. Maria talked to me today about a couple of cases that I'm going to be talking about the murder of some indigenous women down in New Mexico and southern Oklahoma, I believe. So I'm going to be looking into those cases as well to cover those. But if you guys have any cases that you would like to see me cover or talk about, please make sure that you email them to me, because you can do that. You can just email them. Hold on. I'll post my email. I think it'll come up. And I think Nightbot is still working for me. Yeah, there it is. So yeah, just send them to my email and I will look into them. I know that Tech Death has wanted to cover the Maura Murray case. I think that that's one of his grassroots cases that he has followed from day one that means a lot to him. So I may get with him and he and I may try to do something with that. That's on a burner. He's been so busy with things going on in his family that I've not tried to interfere with him much. But thank you to him for the great music that he's provided me with again for my channel. I love that. And what else was I going to tell you guys? Hang on a second. I still thinking about what time of day I'm going to be going live, but I think I'm going to cut out one of my lives a weeknight. And instead of going live on the weeknight, I'm going to be going live during the day. So I haven't decided for sure yet which day. I'm still trying to look at my analytics on YouTube to see when people are available to watch. I don't really want to hurt the people that are watching me, but I do know I have a lot of subscribers that are on during the day. And I want to give them an opportunity as well to be in some of my live streams. So that's one of the other things that I'm thinking of doing. And I think that's pretty much all I really had for tonight, you guys. Again, I can't thank you enough for being here and for, staying with me and being part of my channel. I couldn't do all this without you guys, and I appreciate all of you, each and every one of you. I hope you all have a great rest of your night. I hope you have a good tomorrow. Please remember that doesn't take anything to be kind. We need more kindness in this world. I mean, every day you look at the news and you look at the news that's coming out in true crime genre, and it's just heart-wrenching. And I just feel that we need more kindness between each other. And I'm so thankful for the doors and all that you guys bring to this. Thanks so much, Stefa. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you so much for being here with me. Being a moderator on my channel means a lot to me. All you guys out there helping to keep things going. I just love that. And Deb, please make sure you guys are tuning into Deb's True Crime Notebook. Deb has a great new YouTube channel. She is putting out some amazing content, and we need to get her more subscribers. And in a hot minute, we need to get her up there. She's amazing. And so please make sure you guys are heading over her way if you haven't already. And Fig, thank you so much for being here tonight. I love you. And my heart is with you. And I hope that everyone has a good evening. And I will talk to you guys all later.